When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for being born. I was just a boy, punished for a crime that was not mine.
Hello, 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 and thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. I am Claudrine Jackson. I am your host for A Spoonful of Comfort, and I remember when I thought I was the comfort lady, but there is so much discomfort in the world now that we have to try to encourage ourselves. So we need more than a spoonful of comfort. We need a whole waterfall of comfort. So I hope that you know how to encourage yourself. And one of the ways to encourage yourself is with scriptures, with music, prayer. I want to share with you a scripture, Psalm 138:7. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou dost preserve my life, and thy right hand delivereth me. Though I walk in the midst of trouble. I thought when I reached 80, I wouldn't be walking in the midst of trouble anymore. But you just never know what's in store. Psalm 42:5. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? We know why our soul is downcast. We know why it's so disturbed. But I will put my hope in the God, for I will yet trust in him. Now, we have to do things to keep ourselves from being disturbed and to soothe our own soul. And one of the things that does that, as I mentioned before, is music. And I have a very special guest on the show today who is a singer, and she knows about the good that music does for your soul. So I want to introduce to you my daughter, Stephanie Renee Jackson. And Stephanie is a performer, but she's going to tell you about an ordeal that she went through years ago that helped encourage her to keep singing. So Stephanie, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Mom.
So do you want to, we'll talk about the ordeal that you went through with the brain tumor and get that out of the way and then move on to what you're doing now?
Well, the first ordeal was having an autistic brother.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's the other thing. Stephanie has been my biggest assistant with Purvis Jr. all of his life. And you know, one of the reasons I started doing TV and radio is to raise money for the Purvis Jackson Foundation, which helps lower income children with handicaps. And Stephanie has always been there with helping me with my son. Even when the times when she would get kind of snappy with you, if I called her and said I needed something for PJ, she has always been wonderful with him, kind and compassionate and helpful.
Yes, because I don't want to be bothered person. And my family doesn't bother me. I worked for the state. I was concerned with that 9 to 5. And I've never been a real social person that goes to the autism and Asperger's. But in 94, I was diagnosed. I had a pituitary tumor, so a head tumor. And I had to have radiation behind that, trying to further reduce. But I had always loved music and been a singer. But once I had that surgery, I started to really pursue it. Even though I still was an office worker, I had never intended to pursue it because, you see, the spinners, it took so long. It takes a long time for most performers to really hit big time. But music, it is therapeutic, and that goes to my brother too. He has music in him. His father being a bass singer, his mother didn't contribute too much music. We joked about that and how what Dad said about the music. But I was Dad's music buddy,
Yeah.
and
Well, back to 94, when she first found out about the tumor, she had to have surgery and radiation. And I say she sang her way through the radiation because she would leave her radiation sessions and go sing. And I think that helped uplift her. She had 6 weeks of radiation. And for the first couple weeks, she was kind of downhearted about it. But after that, she started singing. And singing, if you have the talent to sing, it's a gift that though the rest of us don't have. But so it's a gift you give us because it helps us to listen to the music.
of course.
So tell us how you got interested in music.
I was going to say, all performers, we have to have an audience, and you have to have a reason to perform because it brings joy to people. Actors on a stage, athletes.
And you credited Purvis with helping you get interested in music.
But I mentioned, Purvis is my stepfather, and my natural father, he was a singer, and he had brothers, and they sang in the church. So the music came to me, and then with Purvis, I was his music buddy. I'd listen to Isaac Hayes. He was playing Isaac Hayes to get his bass down, but and then jazz. We talked about jazz.
Yes.
So see, I've always been a lover of television, and you guys, you took us to movies, and so basically, I'm a jazz lover and singer. I've been blessed to sing at Baker's and other clubs, local clubs. But I think jazz is the soundtrack of movies and television. So I think that's why I love jazz so much. It's just from loving the movies and hearing that music that accompanied the television.
Now, Stephanie sings, but she also writes. I write, but I don't sing. So Purvis was always pushing me to write and always asking me, what have you written now? Read it to me. So one of the songs that I wrote that Purvis sang, it was released earlier in the year, and it's called Almost. And it was my song. It's in my first book of poems, a book that I wrote 30 years ago. And Purvis took the song and sang it, and now the song has been resurrected. And it's on the internet now, and it's called Almost by Purvis Jackson. If you go to TreCruz.com, you can, that's TRECRUZ.com, you can hear Almost. So then there's another website that I want to tell you about, which is twojacksons.com, where Stephanie and I are both on that website, me with my poetry and Stephanie with her songs. And 2 original songs that she wrote are featured on there, and you'll be hearing them a little later on in the show. But if you go to twojacksons.com, you can see more of what I'm talking about. So, you know, some of the memories we had talked about from your childhood. Last time we talked about a party with the Silvers, but I want to mention a time when the children were teenagers and the Spinners were performing at Disney World, and Disney World had us come, all expenses paid. And I was thrilled to go to Disney World. My children, not so much. But when we got to Disney World, they loved swimming in the hotel pool. When we got to Orlando, they loved swimming in the hotel pool. So Disney World was sending us drivers to bring us to the park. And my children did not want to get out of the pool. We don't want to go. We want to stay here and swim. And usually I tried to let them do the things that they wanted to do. Not this time. We came all the way to Orlando, and we're going to Disney World, and you all want to stay here. And we were living in Highland Park then. I said, you could have stayed in Highland Park to swim in the pool. So you remember Disney World episodes?
Oh, of course. And were you going to repeat the magazine fiasco?
Well, now that you mentioned it,
Since you want to talk about...
now that you mentioned it, Essence magazine did a story about the spinners, and they were with us for like 3 days. And I did everything to have the house. They weren't with, as they were working on the story for 3 days, but they were with each spinner. So it took 3 days for them to do the whole story, because they came to each spinner's house and they filmed the house and they filmed the gold records, and they did a lot of filming. Well, we were all excited about it, except for Stephanie. Stephanie didn't care about Essence magazine coming to film the spinners. I had done all that I could to make sure that wherever the cameras went, I wouldn't be embarrassed. But while they were there, the Highland Park basketball team had a basketball game, and Stephanie wanted to go to the basketball game. So Purvis was going to drive her, and the photographers decided that they would go with Stephanie and Purvis to the bus that was taking them to the basketball game.
Idea of that being a feature.
Yes. So
Sorry, Mom.
the picture that made it in Essence magazine was not me. It was Stephanie and her friend and Purvis at the bus for the basketball game. Well, I was the one that was all excited about it. She was the one that didn't care, and she was the one that was in the magazine. And they had her friend misidentified as Purvis's wife. So people were calling me saying, that's not you. It's got your name. That's not you. That's not you.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Back then, the managers said, well, we're not going to, I wanted to call Essence and correct it. No, they did a very good article. We are not going to say anything. Now, I would at least, to get the record straight, I would say something. But then I said, no, well, I'm not going to say anything.
I'm sorry, Mom. The things you parents go through, and I'm not a parent. I didn't have any children. I pity any poor soul that would have me as a mother. But I decided I was going to be auntie, and I was going to help my brother, my PJ. I'm going to see him through.
And like I say, she's been a great help with PJ, and I really appreciate all that she has done for PJ and with PJ. And PJ's behavior isn't always kind and gentle. He has his moments, but she has accepted behavior from him that she would never accept from anybody else in the world.
No, and he skates like a champ. I started taking him roller skating when he was 7 and 8, and we continued that until he became as big as me. He's a 6-footer.
And while we're speaking of Purvis Jr., the Autism Foundation is named for Purvis Jr. So I want to thank the people that have donated to the Purvis Foundation, because we started it before Purvis Sr. passed, and he was going to be my big help with the foundation. And then he did not live for the fruition. So all of you that have attended events, all of you that have joined us at the events and made donations, thank you so much, because it's something I could not do without help. So I thank you for your help. I'll be reading to you a little later a couple of my poems from my new book, The Butterfly. The butterfly is my latest book. It's book number 4, and we had book signings and poetry readings all planned for this year. And as you know, all plans got turned upside down this year. We had to cancel the book signings, we had to cancel the poetry readings, and with what the world is going through now, I'm not even trying to gather people together. But thank goodness the book is something that, not like ice cream, it's not going to melt. It'll still be there. I can still be selling it. And it's called The Butterfly because there's a story of the butterfly, a poem that I wrote about the butterfly. And the butterfly story is one of my favorite stories. And this is Purvis's artwork, Purvis Jr.'s artwork. That's the cover, the color on the butterfly. So I'm going to take a short break, and during this break, you're going to hear Stephanie's original recordings. So thank you so much for tuning in to WHPR.
Open your mind, open your eyes, see what is real, not what you feel. Your body's wired by powers higher. See Mother Nature, think the Creator, unending pleasure, no way to measure. Think consequences, hold your defenses, check your reactions, no going back on. Think of tomorrow, don't feel sorrow. It's hard, so hard to do, but you're depending on you. Take time and time work for you. The clock controls our next move. Do you hear? We need more time. Misery loves company, but I ain't going there. People wanna tell you what you got to do, but I'm here to tell you what they say ain't true. It's a setup just to get you in the game. Once they got you, they don't even know your name. I've thought about it for so very long. I figure going my way really can't be wrong. I know good from bad, I know right from wrong. So I'll stay my course and sing my happy song. Stress me out, don't even try it, 'cause I ain't going there. So you say you want to have it all.
Thank you, Stephanie, for those songs, for adding music therapy to the world. Now, in case you didn't get the words from the second song, it was misery loves company, but I ain't going there. And there was another line in that song that I liked so much but I forget what it was now. But you wrote the song.
Well, I wouldn't know which line you're talking about.
Oh, but you have another line that you like, don't you? It's something about I won't even try it.
Think about that baby you just gave life. Did you stop to think you brought that kid some strife? Stress me out, don't even try it, 'cause I ain't going there.
That's yes.
What do you mean I must do this scene? I ain't going there. We have a choice. We don't have to participate and do what others say.
Yes, so I like the message. That was the other thing. I like the message about that song. And we don't have to keep the hurtful thoughts in our head. You know, we get hurtful thoughts and depressing thoughts, but we don't have to keep them in our head. But I want to remind everyone that we have an election coming up, and we need to vote. And there was a time when black people weren't allowed to vote. So it's important to vote. I wouldn't tell you who to vote for, but I'll tell you who I'm voting for. And generally, I stay out of politics. But I'll tell you who I'm voting for because this is such an important election. Biden and Harris, you probably already guessed that, but they listen to the experts. They have years of public service, so they have a track record. They will protect Social Security and Medicare. They have been, Biden has been over 40 years that he's been in the political arena trying to serve the country. So they've wanted to serve the country for many years. But I have a poem from my new book that I want to read to you because it captures what's going on to me.
You have to be responsible.
Yeah. This is called Do You Hear the Noise? Because a lot of what we hear is noise. Do you hear the noise? It's in the air. It's everywhere. People lying, people crying, people whining, people who don't even care. Do you hear the noise? It's on the TV. Lying words from lying men coming right at me. Hollow people, hollow words, hollow hearts and minds. They tell us that day is night and wrong is right. Do they think that we're so blind? The facts are not the facts no more, and the truth is a lie. An alternate reality, it's enough to make you cry. Now, how can we trust our leaders? Who is false and who is true? If we want truth and honesty, it depends on me and you. A boogeyman is president. How did this come to be? If we want a better world, it depends on you and me. That means we have to get out and vote. If the people that are in office are the ones that we put in office, so if we stay home and don't vote, then we can't complain about them. So another poem that I want to share with you is called If It Is To Be, kind of keeping with my theme. If it is to be, it's up to me. What I want to see is up to me. No other alternative do I see. Unless you too are sicking through of all the negativity, we need more kindness in the world. Well, I'm a kindness kind of girl. We need more love and comfort too. Well, that's what you and me can do. To get a friend, you must be a friend. I'll tell you just what you can lend. At the end of your arm is a helping hand. You don't need to do much. Just do what you can. Do you want to give blessings instead of pain? To bring the sunshine instead of the rain? When you look into the mirror and see who you do see, remember, you can tell yourself, if it is to be, it's up to me. That is something that I went through when I was trying to find the experts to teach me what to do about my son. And one day, one of the experts told me, "Well, you're the expert. It's up to you. You live with him." That was a crushing blow to me because I was looking for the answer outside of myself, and sometimes the answer is inside. So all of life is a learning process, and the fact that you are back into the singing arena, which is not easy, but I'm glad that you decided to start back singing and I wish if it weren't for the way the situation is now, we could tell you where you could go and see Stephanie perform live, and we could tell you where you could come and join me in my poetry readings, because this time for the poetry readings, I planned on having others help read the poems. But it did not work out that way.
Yes, about getting out. I had been getting out. We've all been enclosed and forced to stay in, but you have to have an activity. So I'd go on to, I mentioned our favorite bakers, and then we have a club that we favor, but we've started back making music.
And one of the clubs it was Purvis's favorite hangout called the locker room. And I did not like Purvis going to the locker room so often, but the people at the locker room raised money to help people with autism for many years, even before I started the Purvis Foundation. So I had to appreciate them for what they were doing for autism, and still do. And I'm so thankful to them, where I had to change my mind. You know, we can change our mind about things, because in the beginning I disliked the place and I did not want Purvis going there. But because of Purvis going there and taking PJ and them learning about autism, they taught me about putting forth my own effort to help.
And when you have a place you go to regularly, it becomes family. Your workplace, or and you help one another. And they looked out for Dad,
Yes.
and looked out for PJ and all of us.
Yeah. Even with PJ's inappropriate behavior back during the years, because he had years of inappropriate behavior. So another thing I wanted to remind you about during these trying times is taking care of your health. And when I talk about health, I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to me. Watch your diet. Make sure you don't eat a lot of fried foods. I had to cut out fried foods and sweets. I'm not there yet, but I am eating more fruit and vegetables, and I'm drinking more water. Remember to wear your mask, stay socially distanced, and your big gatherings, have them outdoors.
But I wanted to, talking about the inappropriate behavior, they have pains and bad nerves that they can't communicate to us. So when you see inappropriate behavior, it's not just from being...
Right. So thank you so much for tuning into A Spoonful of Comfort. I'll see you next Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.
When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for